Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Gauranitai Jaya Gauranitai Jaya Gauranitai Jaya Gauranitai Haribo Haribo Haribol Nitai Gaura Haribol Nitai Gaura Haribol 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 Nitai Gaura Haribol. Okay, so today we're reading from the second canto, and we are starting on chapter 4, which is entitled The Process of Creation. Put it up right now.
Govind, it sounds a little quiet now.
Oh, maybe, okay. I
Cute.
think it's because I put that setting on. Okay, how about now? Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayet. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead, Narayana, unto Naranarayana Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Sarasvati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nashta Prayeshva Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam, and by rendering your service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Omagyanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare. So today we pick up on Canto 2, Chapter 4, Text 1. First verse reads Sutta Uvacha Vayasakir iti vachas Tattva nishchayam atmanaha Padarya matim Krishne Autaryeha satim vyadat. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki. Wait, we read text 25 from chapter 3. Oh yeah. Okay, so 2.4.1. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Sutta Goswami said, Maharaj Parikshit, the son of Uttara, after hearing the speeches of Sukadeva Goswami, which were all about the truth of the self, applied his concentration faithfully upon Lord Krishna. Purport. The word satim is very significant. This means existing and chaste, and both imports are perfectly applicable in the case of Maharaj Parikshit. The whole Vedic adventure is to draw one's attention entirely unto the lotus feet of Lord Krishna, without any diversion, as instructed in the Bhagavad Gita 15.15. Fortunately, Maharaj Parikshit had already been attracted to the Lord from the very beginning of his life, in the womb of his mother. In the womb of his mother, he was struck by the Brahmastra atomic bomb released by Asvatthama. But by the grace of the Lord, he was saved from being burnt by the fiery weapon. And since then, the king continuously concentrated his mind upon Lord Krishna, which made him perfectly chaste in devotional service. So by natural consequence, he was a chaste devotee of the Lord. And when he further heard from Srila Sukadeva Goswami that one should worship the Lord only and no one else, even though full of all desires or desireless, his natural affection for Krishna was strengthened. We have already discussed these topics. To become a pure devotee of Lord Krishna, two things are very much essential, namely having a chance to be born in the family of a devotee and having the blessings of a bona fide spiritual master. By the grace of Lord Krishna, Parikshit Maharaj had both opportunities. He was born in a family of such devotees as the Pandavas, and just to continue the dynasty of the Pandavas and show them special favor, the Lord specifically saved Maharaj Parikshit, who later on, by the arrangement of the Lord, was cursed by the boy of a Brahmana and was able to get the association of such a spiritual master as Sukadeva Goswami. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it is said that a fortunate person, by the mercy of the spiritual master and Lord Krishna, achieves the path of devotional service. This was perfectly applicable in the case of Maharaj Parikshit. By way of being born in a family of devotees, he automatically came in touch with Krishna, and after being so contacted, he constantly remembered him. Consequently, Lord Krishna gave the king a further chance for development in devotional service by introducing him to Shukadeva Goswami, a stalwart devotee of the Lord with perfect knowledge and self-realization. And by hearing from a bona fide spiritual master, he was perfectly able to concentrate his chaste mind further upon Lord Krishna as a matter of course. Today's verse again. Tuta uvacha vayasake iti vachas tatva nishayam atmanaha upadarya matim krishne ataryeha satim yadat. Translation. Sutta Goswami said, Maharaj Parikshit, the son of Uttara, after hearing the speeches of Shukadeva Goswami, which were all about the truth of the self, applied his concentration faithfully upon Lord Krishna. Okay. Um, so we're starting chapter 4, and the title is The Process of Creation. So we haven't quite gotten to creation yet. As far as the start of the chapter, we're more so speaking of Sutta Goswami's more so starting with how Maharaj Parikshit is turning after listening to the previous chapter or the previous words spoken by Shukadeva Goswami, which were entitled Pure Devotional Service, the Change in Heart. Maharaj Parikshit heard all of this, and then he uh, concentrated faithfully upon Lord Krishna because of everything that Shukadeva Goswami had spoken about previously, which was um, I mean, if I remember, I mean, the title of the chapter is the process, pure devotional service, a change in heart. So Shukadeva Goswami is speaking on bhakti, the process of bhakti. And so after Maharaj Parikshit heard all this, then that helped him to be able to apply himself more faithfully into thinking of Lord Krishna. As I was reading the text, though, it almost sounded like this could basically be the end of the Srimad Bhagavatam right here with this verse, where uh, after Maharaj Parikshit, after hearing from Shukadeva Goswami, he applied his concentration faithfully upon Lord Krishna. The end. So it's interesting how there's 10 more cantos after this. So um, as far as Srila Prabhupada's purport, let's see. So Srila Prabhupada, the first thing that he talks about is not diverting our attention away from the lotus feet of Lord Krishna. And this is the instruction in Bhagavad Gita 15.15. Um, I mean, it's like so, yeah, it's very simple. It's such a simple instruction, but the actual application of it is very difficult um, for us to come to a platform where our entire life is just absorbed in thinking about Krishna, how to please him, or even just having him in our thoughts throughout 24 hours in a day. It takes a lot of practice to get to a point and to get to a point of that level of consciousness. I know for me personally, I can't say that I'm thinking of Krishna without any diversion. There's so many diversions coming that come to my head. But at least we're reminded about what the goal is. And so our goal again is to get to that point where as Krishna being a person, we can think about a person throughout our entire day, throughout our entire life. And well, what we read is that once we actually get to that platform, when we're no longer diverted, we're thinking of Lord Krishna, is when we'll actually be happy. Um, we might feel, I know I feel that some things other than Krishna can bring me happiness or can bring me satisfaction. And so this is where what's called illusion is Maya, when we're thinking that we can draw or live a life separate from Krishna, that this is an illusion. Um, that living a life separate from Krishna, um, it just takes time, really, for us to see again and again how miserable it is and how there is no real joy or real satisfaction. And if there is, it's temporary. And so if a joy is temporary, um, then it doesn't align with who we are as a spirit soul. Srila Prabhupada tells us, Aham Brahmasmi, that I am spirit soul. And that being the first instruction, once we're able to really grasp that and really understand that I am a spirit soul, that that in a sense can automatically shift how we live our life. If we're no longer identified with our material bodies, then we're going to want to fulfill our spiritual bodies and fulfill our spiritual identity. If we're living in our within our spiritual identity, then it doesn't become difficult to think about Krishna because we understand that I am part and parcel of Krishna. But before we're on that platform, we have to practice, um, which in Kali Yuga, there's so many different distractions, so many things coming about. I mean, just thinking about like family life, being I'm married, I have children, that trying to make the time for our sadhana, for our spiritual practice, it's difficult. I mean, my understanding is that previously the way society was set up, even just on a basic level, is that there was some kind of sharing of the load with like raising children, that families kind of grew up together, like in a sense where your children could go out and you wouldn't feel so you wouldn't have to be watching your children 24 hours in a day. There's actually like a sharing where you're watching your children, but someone else, like as they're playing or whatever the case is, the families or societies is the closeness is in a way that other families can also watch your children, and there's a actual sense of security in that. That we take care of each other's children, we take care of each other, and so there's no need for me to be completely absorbed, um, like as if it's just my family, and then it's just your family, and everyone's living in these little bubbles. That when everyone's in their little bubbles, we don't have, and that responsibility falls entirely on the parents. Then, uh, then yeah, it, then the time to do things like our spiritual practice gets reduced. There's a reduction in the time that we're able to do things like chanting our japa, like reading from the scriptures. And current in the modern age, this is kind of how families are, or at least in my experience, from that there's no like greater village that's helping each other, that it's kind of everyone for themselves in a sense. Um, um, oh, and I was connecting that with drawing our attention to Krishna and just saying how in this modern age it seems to be that there's more obstacles that come in our way to doing that. Um, and then I'll just bring up one more point so that I don't speak for too long. The other thing that was standing out to me, mm, oh, yeah, that Srila Prabhupada says that to become a pure devotee of Lord Krishna, two things are very much essential, namely having a chance to be born in the family of a devotee and having the blessings of a bona fide spiritual master. So, uh, like I've like I've kind of said before, being here in Alachua, there's a lot of devotees that have had the chance to be born in a family of devotees. They're grown up knowing Krishna or reading about Krishna, chanting the holy names. That's been their life, where they've actually grown up doing these things, and that is not by chance. It's not randomly that someone gets the opportunity to grow up in the family of devotees. It means that in their previous lives, um, they've done something uh, to, they've done something in connection with Krishna that now he's actually giving them the good fortune to be born up uh, with Krishna consciousness already. I mean, even before a child is born, if they're born to a family of devotees, while the child is in the womb, while they're in their mom's womb, then they're already most likely uh, hearing kirtan. I'm sure the mother is going to the temple, or if she's listening to lectures, then the baby, this child, is hearing classes, maybe even hearing Srila Prabhupada, and that's even before they're born, which is just crazy to think about. But again, but just for me to remember that that's not random. That these devotees that are grown up with devotee parents, it's not by chance. They've in a sense they've earned that position, and they've earned that good fortune by doing something, or many things, probably practicing for many years in their previous lives. So it just helps to give us some more faith that um, to just keep going. Sometimes practicing Krishna consciousness can be difficult, and there could be many people, and there have been many people that maybe give it up, that for one reason or another they just kind of step away, and they don't come back. Which, I mean, that happens. Everyone, we have our autonomy to be able to choose whether to want to think about Krishna or not. But if we just are able to stay connected in one way or another, that will help us in the long run. We get help by the service and the practice that we've done up to the present point. But if we don't continue after our present point, then we're not helping ourselves to to continue further along in our relationship with Krishna. So we find what we can consistently keep up with in our life, um, and we practice that. Yeah, if we've taken initiation, then we have vows that we've made, and so we have to we have to do our best to follow those vows. And by following these vows, it's helping us again, and it's helping us in our relate and growing in our attachment and relationship to Krishna, which it can happen in this one lifetime, where we reach a platform by the mercy of the Guru and the mercy of Krishna, the devotees. We reach a point where we are able to think about Krishna all the time, or it may take another life, or another, or more lifetimes. Um, so it's dependent upon that mercy reaching us. Um, yeah, I think that's all that really I have to add here. So, Abby's on the call. Hey, Krishna, Abby. And hey, Muna, if you'd like to add anything.
Hare Krishna. I guess I haven't thought of anything to add up to this point. Sorry, I'm just listening.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you for coming.
Yeah, thank you.
Hare Krishna. This is a wonderful introductory verse to the chapter 4. I mean, it's basically just a who's who and what's what. Who's who and what's what up to this point in Srimad Bhagavatam. It's wonderful. You know, we have let's get it straight. We have Sutta Goswami, Sukadeva Goswami, who's who and what's what. Okay. Maharaj Parikshit, the son of Uttara. Okay, and we get to know that why these people are so special. These are the people that are gathered. We need to listen to what's going on, and this is why they're so special. Maharaj Parikshit was almost killed in the womb, but saved by Krishna. He's hearing Krishna from in the womb, and we get to know who Asvatama is also at that moment. Sutta Goswami is our narrator, right? So we get that straight, that Maharaj Parikshit was listening to Sukadeva Goswami, and Sutta Goswami is the narrator for us at this point. So this is very important. We're setting up, what's coming. Let's get straight where we are, who's who, and what's what. And I was also struck by the part where it talks about, the opportunity to be born in a family of a devotee, and also having the bona fide spiritual contact with the bona fide spiritual master. The only thing I'd like to add, because it is said elsewhere, is that any one of these things is enough. For you to become go back to Godhead. Who knows? It's not me or any of us here to say, but we know that most souls go through these changes and these developments, and from one lifetime to the next, and now we're getting into a better, but it can also happen like that. If the soul has the right contact and the right circumstance at, the right time, it can happen, instantaneously. So don't anybody lose hope if they weren't born in a devotee family. And yeah. So I don't, as Abby said, you've very well covered everything. This verse has very little in it, and somehow you managed to add a lot more to it. I guess your preaching quality is developing. But I think we've covered everything that was said in here, and the things that, including the things that Prabhupada commented. Yeah.
Okay, then we can move to text number 2, if you like to read.
Yes, I can.
Okay.
I'll get this one. Okay. Canto 2, Chapter 4, Text 2. Atma Jaya Sutagara Pashu Dravina Bandushu Raje Kavi Kale Nityam Viruram Mamatam Jahao. Maharaj Parikshit, as a result of his wholehearted attraction for Lord Krishna, was able to give up all deep-rooted affection for his personal body, his wife, his children, his palace, his animals like horses and elephants, his treasury home, his friends and relatives, and his undisputed kingdom. The purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Jai. To become liberated means to become free from dehatma buddhi, the illusory attachment for personal bodily coverings and everything connected with the body, namely wife, children, and all other entanglements. One selects a wife for bodily comforts, and the result is children. For wife and children, one requires a dwelling place, and as such, a residential house is also necessary. Animals like horses, elephants, cows, and dogs are all household animals, and a householder has to keep them as household paraphernalia. In modern civilization, the horses and elephants have been replaced by cars and conveyances with considerable horsepower. To maintain all the household affairs, one has to increase the bank balance and be careful about the treasury house. And in order to display the opulence of material assets, one has to keep good relations with friends and relatives, as well as become very careful about maintaining the status quo. This is called materialist civilization of material attachment. Devotion for Lord Krishna means negation of all material attachments, as detailed above. By the grace of Lord Krishna, Maharaja Parikshit was awarded all material amenities and an undisputed kingdom in which to enjoy the undisturbed position of king. But by the grace of the Lord, he was able to give up all connections with material attachment. That is the position of a pure devotee. Maharaja Parikshit, due to his natural affection for Lord Krishna as a devotee of the Lord, was always executing his royal duties on behalf of the Lord, and as a responsible king of the world, he was always careful to see that the influence of Kali would not enter his kingdom. A devotee of the Lord never thinks of his household paraphernalia as his own, but surrenders everything for the service of the Lord. Thereby, living entities under a devotee's care get the opportunity for God realization by the management of a devotee master. Attachment for household paraphernalia and for Lord Krishna go poorly together. One attachment is the path of darkness, and the other attachment is the path of light. Where there is light, there is no darkness, and where there is darkness, there is no light. But an expert devotee can turn everything to the path of light by an attitude of service to the Lord. And the best example here is the Pandavas. Maharaja Yudhishthira and householders like him can turn everything to light by dovetailing so-called material assets in the service of the Lord. But one who is not trained or is unable to turn everything to the service of the Lord, Nirbandaha Krishna Bandadahe, must give up all material connections before he can be fit to hear and chant the glories of the Lord, or in other words, one who has seriously heard Srimad Bhagavatam for even one day, like Maharaja Parikshit, from a fit personality like Shukadeva Goswami, may be able to lose all affinity for material things. There is no utility simply in imitating Maharaja Parikshit and hearing Bhagavatam from professional men, even for several hundred years. To take Srimad Bhagavatam as a means of maintaining family expenditure is the grossest type of namaparada, offense at the feet of the Lord. Sarva, Subha, Shubha, Kriya, Samyam, Api, Pramadaha. All right. So we'll repeat the verse one more time. Maharaj Parikshit, as a result of his wholehearted attraction for Lord Krishna, was able to give up all deep-rooted affection for his personal body, his wife, his children, his palace, his animals like horses and elephants, his treasury house, his friends and relatives, and his undisputed kingdom. Very good. So now we've been introduced to the characters. Remember who's who and what's what here. Now we see the effect that the hearing the words of Sukadeva Goswami, let me make sure I get it straight, is having on Parikshit. He's able to move forward. You know, he's been placed well. He's been encountering Krishna since in the womb. He knows about Krishna. He's been put in a good place in order to, once he hears these words again from Shukadeva Goswami, he can go on and and give up. You know, it's a natural thing, because when the light comes in, the dark goes out. And here it says that one cannot exist where the other is, and that is probably very true. Although mostly we might see it as a process of more and more light and less darkness, and but a transformation from the darkness to the light. But it certainly worked for Maharaj Parikshit, and so he is the example for the rest of us to show that this can work. He is a very good example, because it's easy for people who are in very bad life situations to look for God, to go, try. But for people who have wealth and everything in their favor, everything, it's a little more difficult for them, which is the part of the trap of the modes of material nature. When you're in the mode of goodness and things might be so good that you forget you're supposed to go back to Godhead. So Maharaj Parikshit has been put in a very good place, a very good time. His circumstances have put him in the position to do the right thing, and not only for himself, but to leave it for posterity, so that Sutta Goswami can come along and tell us all about it. Thank you. Govinda?
Thank you. It resonated with me about the light and the dark, and how you were highlighting turning the dark things to the light, and um, how we want to stay in that light. The one point that I forgot I wanted to bring up from the last verse, and you touched upon it too, is how Maharaj Parikshit is situated so nicely, how he is able to hear from Shukadeva Goswami, and how in the purport, Srila Prabhupada said that um, he said that Krishna arranged for this to happen. Oh yeah, here it is. So it says Maharaj Parikshit. I'm kind of paraphrasing. The Lord specifically saved Maharaj Parikshit, who later on, by the arrangement of the Lord, was cursed by the boy of a Brahmana, and was able to get the association of such a spiritual master as Shukadeva Goswami. I was thinking that Shukadeva Goswami, if I remember right, within the Srimad Bhagavatam itself, or in one of Srila Prabhupada's purports, that Shukadeva Goswami, he didn't associate with like material men or materialistic men. Even Maharaj Parikshit, he never would have associated with them if he was still the king, if he was still the emperor. Maharaj Parikshit, Shukadeva Goswami actually wouldn't have spoken to Maharaj Parikshit. So the whole arrangement of Maharaj Parikshit being cursed and giving up his kingdom, giving up everything, that's what allowed for him to actually, like Prabhupada says, that's what allowed for him to actually get the association of Shukadeva Goswami. But if he hadn't given up his kingdom, given up his family, everything, then he never would have gotten this mercy from the Guru, from Shukadeva Goswami. So it's nice how, and uh, and then who's orchestrating this whole thing? Well, it's Krishna. Krishna is arranging it all. He's orchestrating it. And it's not just in Maharaj Parikshit's life, but in everyone's life, whether directly or indirectly. Once we start to practice Krishna consciousness, even once we have started to chant, once we've said the holy name one time, then Krishna becomes attentive to us. He sees that or if we've gone to the temple, or if we've um, been favorable in any way to the devotees, or taken a book, anything like that, then this is when we've we've gotten Krishna's attention. Uh, I think of like a watchtower, and you get like a spotlight, a spotlight thrown on you. So once we've done anything, whether directly or indirectly in devotional service, then Krishna, we have that watchlight or that spotlight on us now. And Krishna is very much um, looking to see how he can help us, because we've made a step to him. So now he's making steps to us. And even my point being that even if we're not at the level of Maharaj Parikshit, Krishna is actually still in our life. He's still arranging in our life too. So certain situations that are coming up, challenges, um, sufferings, or positive things too. He's arranging for these things to happen to us. And so the ideal way of seeing things is as Krishna's mercy. Sometimes there can be situations that we can think, how is this mercy? This is miserable. This situation is really, I'm really suffering. But um, we can remember that it's being arranged by Krishna. Then and Krishna is a supreme friend. He's a supreme proprietor, the supreme enjoyer, and the ultimate friend. We can remember Krishna's friendship with us, and that he's always looking for our best interest. Then no matter the situation that we're in, we can rise above our material perspective and come to a spiritual perspective. It might be artificial at first, but at least we're practicing it. And Krishna reciprocates with us that we're trying not to just get stuck in this depressed state when something challenging comes. He's seeing that we're actually trying to implement the Shastra and implement what we've heard from senior devotees, that challenges, we should take them, or we should try to take them as Krishna's mercy. That if we're trying, if we're making that effort, and Krishna's seeing that, we might still internally feel that I I don't I I I don't really see this as Krishna's mercy, but I'm trying to see it as Krishna's mercy, and that's our attempt, that's our endeavor, and that's where the mercy comes for us, is in our attempts. Because we can't we can't make progress in spiritual life on our own. The progress that's coming is because of mercy, and without that mercy we're not making spiritual progress. um, oh, one thing too that stood out to me was deep rooted, how in the verse itself they're talking about Maharaj Parikshit's deep rooted affection. And the Sanskrit word that's being used is virudham, deep rooted. I guess it's virudham mamatam, deep rooted affinity. So it seems like it's those two words together, deep rooted affinity. Um, and then bandushu. Bandushu is unto friends and relatives. So it's it's understood that our attachment and our affection for our husband, for our wife, for our children, for our residents, even animals, for our animals, for our bank account, or treasury house, our friends and relatives, that these things are deep rooted in our they the attachment for these things is deeply rooted within our heart. Um, once we have, yeah, for anyone who has anyone who has children or who's married, yeah, we can have that experience of how much affection we have for our children, for our wife, how much attachment we have for them. So we end getting and detaching from them can be difficult. It's because of how deeply rooted that attachment is. It's not just in most cases it doesn't just happen like that. But Maharaj Parikshit, because and then this is actually nice. So we actually get the formula here. So how can we detach from our affection, from our material affection towards our wife and children and friends and relatives? Is it tells us that we can detach as a result of our wholehearted attraction for Krishna. So the more attraction we have for Krishna, the less attraction we have for our material relationships and our material attachments. And this is the interesting thing too, is that with Krishna consciousness, we're not told not to care about our wife or to care about our children. That's not what the instruction is. It's not that, oh, I'm practicing Krishna consciousness now, so let me be detached and not show any kind of care for my wife, for my family. Let me not give them this kind of love, because that's a that is a that is a sign of attachment. And the more love I give my family, the more attached I'll be to this material world. That's not the instruction. It's the material aspect of our attachments. So if we see our wife as being our wife, or our husband as being our husband, on the body, if we're seeing them on the bodily platform, and seeing the children as my children, this is my son, this is my daughter. If we are, if we're viewing things from that filter, then that's where it's entangling us more into our material life. But if we can somehow or other get the mercy to have the vision of my wife, of my children, as them being spirit souls, as them being parts and parcels of Krishna, then actually the affection is the attraction for them is not material, and it's not something that is need that we need to get rid of, because that's actually the reality of things, that if we can see our partner and our family as being parts and parcels of Krishna, then there's no problem at all having that affection. That affection is actually wanted. It's good for us to have that affection. We see them as devotees, with Krishna being in the center. So Krishna is now the one who these are his children. These are his children. So so let me serve them nicely because they're part of Krishna. In that mood, there's no need to give up that affection, because that's the same. That's what we're practicing what it is in the spiritual world. It's not like in the spiritual world the devotees ignore each other and they just pay attention to Krishna. They're no, we have we have um, examples of the interactions that devotees have. Like within the Srimad Bhagavatam, there's so many examples of how nicely the devotees care for each other. I remember I think it's in the first canto, when Vidura comes to speak to, is it Vidura? Yeah, I think it was Vidura. Or is it Arjuna? Oh, man, I can't remember anymore. Well, anyways, there's when someone's coming to speak to Maharaj Yudhishthira, and Maharaj Yudhishthira is asking about their well-being and how they're doing and how is our family. He's asking these questions. And so we can kind of get confused and think, well, isn't this material? Is Maharaj Yudhishthira asking all these questions about how they are and how our family is doing and if they're okay? Isn't this kind of isn't this a sign of attachment? And and the answer is no, that this is spiritual. This is spiritual. The Maharaj Yudhishthira is a pure devotee. He doesn't have a vision of enemy or friend. He's the quality of a devotee is that they're magnanimous. They're a friend to all. And so when and a friend to all is because we see everyone as being spirit souls. And so once we see everyone as spirit souls, and I was just using that as an example because that this is what it is in the spiritual world, that everyone has love for each other. They have love for Krishna, and they have love for each other too. Because yeah, and so we don't need to grow a cold heart, is all I'm trying to say here. We don't have to be cold-hearted with our relations. We only have to just adjust the perspective and pray for the ability to see our relations in terms of the spirit soul and not in terms of the body, which can be which sometimes we don't want to give up that vision, because uh, if we view things based on the body, then that's still giving us a sense of pleasure. If we see my children as my children, or if we see our wife or our husband as our wife or our husband, then there is this bodily enjoyment that happens as a result of that. And so we may not want to give up that kind of view of things. Um, and so then that brings us back to, well, that kind of satisfaction is not going to last. And so it takes continued chanting, continued prayer until we really realize that fact, that we want to give up these material attachments and be situated in spiritual attachments. Yeah, it's 10:54. Abby, I
Hare
don't know.
Krishna.
Yeah.
Yes, I was just going to add to that a little bit because what you're saying is very true. The thing about the attachments is that we go through different periods or different stages in our life, and there is a moment when it is correct, when it's correct for you to be attached to your wife and to your children, and you're doing, your role. Your role is clearly explained here, what it is you need to do as a householder. It's all there, and that's okay. At that moment, you're very attached. But then, we grow, spiritually, and and with age, and then it comes the moment for next stage of life where we will be ready to let go of those attachments. Because some people say, well, how could I ever possibly let go of the attachment to my family member, whatever, that my child or my husband, or how can I ever? But what happens is that we, through this process, we will eventually reach that point, which is a healthy point that we will need to reach in order to continue along the spiritual journey. And when we are ready for it, it will happen. We do everything we can, to, go in that direction. We don't want to go in the direction of other people who are not conscious of Krishna, so we're doing everything we can to go in the right direction. But there are periods of time, and sometimes you can't rush things. Having a family, that's going to take maybe 25, 30 years of your life that you can't get around. And once you start it, you got to go through it. But it's okay. Then after that, in order for you to continue with your own spiritual advancement, you're going to have to let go. I mean, I know that. How can you be worrying? Everybody around you has their own problems. And how can you be all preoccupied with trying to straighten up their material existences? Or you have to pull back and say, okay, now they're working on in their material world because they have a family or whatever, and they're doing whatever. But now it's time for me to let go of them because I'm going forward. Now, some people can do that at a very young age. Some people don't have children or whatever. And for some people, it has to take place at a later stage in life after they've gone through what they needed to go through. It's part of their karma. This is their life. They have their children, and they have to go through it. Now, as far as the only other thing that I wanted to comment on, something that Govinda has mentioned about how sometimes we're so busy, so busy. It could be with family or with work or whatever. And say, how does one maintain their spiritual life? And, because, but how? Because you don't have time to do all the things. And that may be very well be true. I mean, sometimes we'll say, oh, you make the time, oh, okay. Well, that's one school of thought. But the other thing is that we have to remember what the most important point is. The most important point is to remember Krishna at all times. That's what we're striving for, to remember Krishna at all times. And that's a valid thing to do, whether or not you have time to chant your 16 rounds, for instance, or whether or not you have time to go and do a certain service somewhere that you thought you had time to do, but then you find you don't. The most important thing is that everything you do with your mind, like Govinda says, your family, your love for your family, it's a spiritual love, as long as you do it with the consciousness of Krishna. And don't misquote me, Yamuna did not say that nobody has to chant their rounds, but I just want to reassure those of you who feel like you are so busy that you're not able to keep up with all of these obligations. The most important obligation is remembering Krishna. And if you're doing that, sooner or later, you'll make time for everything, all of those little details, Okay. So, does Abby have anything to add to this conversation?
Hare Krishna. Yeah, just kind of like going off what you just said. I mean, just, I don't know, real quick. Yeah, every day I just barely scrape by my 16 rounds, and I don't really have time for anything else. Like the day just goes by so quickly, and I'm in such a panic over every day. I'm like, where did the day go? I really struggle with, like, I don't read at all, and I really would like to. But every day I just barely scrape by the 16 rounds, and yeah, it's just really hard. It's like there's no time for anything else. Like, anyway, that y'all said a lot of stuff. I can't comment on every single thing, but I just wanted to say that one thing. So anyway, that's it.
Well, don't lose faith. The hours will extend for you somehow, or the things will become more compact, and somehow you'll be able to fit it all in. Remembering Krishna, the most important thing being remembering Krishna, and your efforts are, I'm sure, seen by Krishna, and which is very important to us. Not so much, we have to remember that we have a relationship. We're a part somehow of this parampara. We find a spiritual master, and by his mercy, we're able to move forward. So we should not waste any opportunity we have for words of wisdom from an enlightened spiritual master. We shouldn't lose any opportunities. And this is why I want to encourage those of you who are listening here in person, or those of you who are listening later, to continue to send questions to His Grace Manonatha Maharaja, because he would be very happy to grace us with his answers in a video conference at some moment, but he needs to see that there is enough interest on the part of the students. That's our role, our responsibility in the video conferences, is to supply the material and then to show up on time. And we have a flexibility thing where we could even discuss changing day and hour of class or whatever, but it's important that we're here on time and that we appreciate the opportunity that we have for to hear words of wisdom from His Grace Manonatha Maharaja. Ki Jai.
Hi. Thank you very much, Imuna. Thank you very much, Bhakti Nabi, for joining us as well. I think with that note, we'll continue. Sounds like we'll continue with, at least for now, with the Bhagavatam next week as well. We'll make an announcement later on. So I hope that everyone has a good start of their next week, thinking of Krishna, doing our best to think of Krishna. With that, we can go ahead and conclude today's class. So, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srila Mananath Maharaj ki jai.
Jai. Haribol.
Yascha Kripa Sindhu Dhyayavacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namo. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.